Well, hello and welcome. My name is Velma. You can connect with me at velmanolds.com. This is all about your leadership chat. What does that mean? You get to listen in on valuable insights from valuable leaders just like you. I want to encourage you to go ahead and subscribe so that you never miss another episode. And if this is of value to you, please share the nuggets that you're going to take away from all these great leaders. Hey, please give a big welcome to my special guest and your valuable leader, JJ Peterson. Hi, JJ. Welcome to your
Hello.
leadership chat.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited for those listening in. When I sent JJ the email with the invitation, I wasn't sure if he was going to think I was stalking him, but literally, I've just been following this guy. He's just got a wealth of knowledge and a heart for leadership and helping others. And I just know he's going to be a fantastic guest. So, JJ, please kick things off and tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I'm Dr. JJ Peterson, and I help companies with their marketing and help them clarify their message. And not just companies, but really anybody who wants to communicate a message that is designed to move people to action.
Mm.
So we use a narrative framework. I work for a company called StoryBrand, and we use a narrative framework to teach people how to communicate more clearly and more effectively.
Right, and I'm sure folks have heard of StoryBrand, and I have as well, and read Marketing Made Simple. Is that how
Uh-huh.
it is? Did I make
That's
that? I
my
hope
book.
I
Yep.
got that one right. Um,
Yes.
okay,
Yep.
I knew it was something simple, and
Uh-huh.
the marketer in me, and of course StoryBrand and a few others. But I know that a lot of heavy lifting happens behind the scenes, and I know that's a part of what you do. And so, thank you for that introduction. Tell us, and I did warn JJ ahead of time. I told him I'd go off script, and he was safe. But so, tell us where are you? Where do you live, and where are you calling in from today?
Yeah, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. So I grew up kind of the West Coast, and actually my parents were missionaries in Kenya when I was little. So I actually kind of grew up all over the place and was in Southern California. I was involved in the film industry a little bit, kind of in Hollywood and entertainment.
Yeah.
I was a professor of communication and then ultimately became dean of students at a university. And how I ended up out here in Nashville was living in Southern California. As you do, I sold a reality television show to a production company. and so
Nice, of course.
I, so I was dean of students at a school, had kind of signed with this production company. And at the same time, kind of as I was leaving the school and kind of pursuing that a little bit deeper,
Yeah.
I invited Donald Miller, who is the founder of StoryBrand, to come out and speak to my students about the power of story and living a great story.
Yeah.
And we just connected and hit it off. And he was like, I'm starting this new thing called StoryBrand. Would you be interested in coming out and kind of branding yourself? Because I was transitioning out of education and into kind of more the entertainment space. And I said, yeah. And I came out and it kind of changed my life, very honestly.
Oh,
Like it really took all the principles and techniques that I had been trying to teach and do for the last 20 years
yeah.
and simplified it in a way that just got me excited. And so while I was waiting for my TV show to launch, I was flying back and forth from Los Angeles to Nashville, kind of helping Dawn teach the framework. And in because we were just kind of getting started where we were inviting companies in to help them clarify their message through this framework. And so I did that for about a year and a half. And then the TV show didn't go anywhere and I lost interest. And so I was like, I'm moving to Nashville. So that was about 10 years ago.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I love Nashville. I'm a big Tennessee fan. I'm originally from the islands of the Bahamas. I know this
Oh,
is
wow.
really a stretch here. I live in Florida because I just can't do really, really cold weather.
Uh-huh.
But I love Tennessee because my mom back in the islands, she would listen to country music. And it
Mm.
just got in the vein. And I'm sure when you live there, you're like, oh, not another country music person. But it's just one of those things that I love, and I just love the state. I
Yeah.
love western side of it, and the beautiful part of just the country up there. And so
Yeah.
I digress, but I can tell that when you went from talking about your TV reality show and you started talking about teaching again in the area of story brand, but teaching at the heart of it, you just, was lighting up like a Christmas tree and you were just full of energy. And I love that. So you are in your sweet spot,
Yes, I
teaching
am.
and you're marketing, and now you're doing it for a bigger audience, so how wonderful is that? I love
So
that.
great.
Well, yes, and we share so many things you would not believe. I adjunct professor with a university called Southeastern University. It's a local Christian college
Oh yeah,
here in Florida, and so I did a lot of teaching and even developed some courses for them. So, which
love that.
included videos. Anyway.
Love
Anyway,
that.
so okay, so I see. I told you I could talk to you.
Yeah.
Um, let's jump in because I want the listeners to have a chance to learn from you. And so my first question is around if you could share who in your life you would say is a valuable leader. It's that person, JJ, that you would say, Velma, if it was not for this person, I don't think I would be the man I am today. They've made such an impression and impact in your life. Who would that person be and why? Tell us the story.
I mean, honestly, I have a hard time narrowing it down because I've
Yeah,
been
that's
so
okay. I'll give
lucky.
you a little bit of wiggle room.
I've been so lucky. I would say my dad, is part of that. And then I really would say the man outside of my father who probably had the greatest impact on me, his name was Scott Congdon.
Hmm.
And Scott was the head of at the time when I worked for them, the largest short-term missions organization in the world, called Amor Ministries. And that was my first job right out of college. So the first time that I ever did marketing public relations was for this nonprofit. And Scott, there was a number of different things that I think I've walked away from and quoted him so many times.
Yeah.
The biggest thing was integrity. Like he
Mm,
was just a man of integrity that had zero compromise.
right.
And that carries over into everything I do. Like to the point of where even, sometimes when I was like at a university and students would come to me, like I came to a university one time and we are going on a leadership retreat. And one of the kids were like, all right, well, we always just hop in the back of the pickup. And I was like, no, we don't. And they're like, well, we've been doing that for years. And I
Right.
said, no, that's illegal and dangerous. We're not going to do that. And
Right.
they got really mad at me. And like, I sat down with them and said, hey, this is actually a matter of integrity and leadership. When you're willing to compromise on these little things,
Yeah.
it actually leaves you vulnerable to compromise on the big things. And Scott really taught me that. And then
Mm,
another big thing that I carry with me till today is when we were in that kind of work that was consistent and didn't stop, like so we were building homes in impoverished areas in Mexico, in the border towns in Mexico. And it's not like poverty ever ended or the tragedies around. So you kind of were always going. And one of the things Scott taught me is to create moments of what he called demarcation,
mm,
to mark moments where we say this season is done and we're moving into this season, and doing that through reflection,
hmm.
asking questions of what did I learn? What do I want to mourn from this last season? What can I celebrate from this last season? And what do I want to do differently moving forward? And that really, like, because, once you're out of school, you kind of don't have those like, oh, this year is done and we're moving
Hmm.
forward when it comes to
Yeah.
your business and work and leadership.
Yeah.
And if those moments don't naturally occur, Scott taught me to create those moments so that you can actually kind of rest instead of kind of pile, but
Mhm.
actually kind of end a season, make some adjustments and move forward.
Oh, I love that. People that know me, I actually think and talk with a pen. So please know that I am so engaged with you. But
Yeah,
for Scott, leading into integrity, such a big word. It's been a word that I've really owned that word myself this year. If you tell someone you're gonna show up, you show up. Meaning,
absolutely.
if you're putting out that podcast, you're putting out that podcast because even if there's only four people listening, you have a commitment and an obligation to those four people. And so
Absolutely.
I love that because I understand that word a lot better now than I've ever have. And you would think, my wisdom coming out here, I would know, right? Um, but this tends to fool people, and I love it because then I get that, oh, Miss Velma type of thing. And I'm like, boy, they think I'm really, really smart and old, but that's okay. And then the moments of demarcation, I wrote down the four steps in that formula, if you will. What did you learn? What do you need to mourn? Like, what do you have to just embrace it and realize it's a loss to you or something, right? What
Mhm.
do you need to celebrate? What's that win or more than win? And then what do you do now to move forward? Bam, I dropped the mic on that one. Here I am thinking, wow, we got to wait till question number three, and you're already making,
We're
wow,
already
well,
in it. We're going deep early. We're going
oh
deep
my
early.
gosh. Yes, yes, yes. Buckle your seatbelts with Dr. JJ here. I love that. And thank you so much for sharing that. And of course, your dad. It's interesting as many valuable leaders that I speak to, how many people bring up those like their mom, their dad, their grandparents that are valuable leaders or teachers in their lives for you as a former and now also corporate, teacher, if you will, but trainer, but even in the education world of universities, how many people say that teacher or that one?
Yeah.
So beautiful. Well done. Look at you. You are just toast to you, my friend. You are doing so well. Okay. My second question is around, and this is tough because it's gonna make you think about it, but you got this. So you know what it is to have a valuable leader in your life, more than one. I mean, we've touched on Scott. You went deep on him, and your dad. I know we could spend some time unpacking that, but I would love to know now how you personally pay it forward to others so that they could recognize or see the valuable leader in them that someone has done for you. How do you pay that forward?
It there comes a point, I believe, and I don't know what this point is, where I think it becomes a responsibility to move beyond just wanting to be poured into. I
Mm,
still hear people, so I'm almost 50 this year, and I still hear friends my age saying, I just want people to pour into me. And that's not a bad sentiment. That's
right.
actually not, and I'm looking to be led kind of thing. You know what? That's wonderful. And I still, to this day, have mentors, people who are pouring into me
Right.
100%. But a light switched in me in a new way recently when so I got married and became stepdad to two kids.
Right.
And one is a 16-year-old and one is
Okay.
a 7-year old. Two are in college, but one's a 16-year old and one's a 7-year old. And there are moments with the 16-year old where I know eating Pop Tarts at 9 o'clock at night by the fistful is not good for her.
Right.
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 And yet sometimes I want to avoid the conflict. So I don't say anything or I defer because she'll say something like, well, I'm hungry. And
Yes.
so I kind of like defer to her kind of authority almost in that moment. And there was something that happened recently and this past year where I literally had to say to myself, hey, you're the adult in the room.
Mm,
Don't forget that you're the adult here.
yeah.
And that has actually translated into my work environment
Hmm.
that I've actually had to tell myself in multiple situations, hey, just remember you're the adult in the room.
Mm,
And not in an arrogant or in a like lording over kind of way, but here's
sure.
a very quick for instance. So one of my clients I worked with was Microsoft, one
Right.
of the top five biggest companies in the world,
Right.
huge company. Obviously everybody knows who they are.
Yeah.
And they asked me to come in to help them with some messaging.
Right.
I go in, and my first inclination in that moment is to be timid and to
Mm,
kind of like shrink a little bit. And there's some ways where I'm thinking I'm doing that out of humility, but when we shrink, we actually don't do service to the others who have called us to lead and to help. And so I had to, in that moment, stand there and go, hey, in this context, when it comes to messaging and marketing, you're the adult in the room. And not that the other people there aren't experts and they're not amazing and all that stuff, but they're actually paying for me to be there to
That's
give
right.
my wisdom and my experience.
Hmm.
And so I say that to say, as I'm kind of like moving into the place of paying it forward, there are moments, not
Hmm.
always, but there are moments when I begin to doubt the value that I can bring into a situation, that I actually have to remind myself, you're the adult in the room. You're 50 years old, you have a PhD, you teach, like I teach at Vanderbilt. Like I work with these biggest companies in the world,
Yeah.
and yet there are moments that I shrink, and that doesn't do me service or others. And so even in mentoring kind of situations, when I'm watching somebody that I know I can actually step in and give some advice to, sometimes when I try to I'm like, oh, they don't want to hear it. I will
Mm.
remind myself, hey, remember, you're the adult in the room. And a
Yeah.
lot of times people are looking to you to be the adult in the room. So that's kind of a new phrase that I give myself to really help me step into some of those places that I know that I can contribute.
Yes, I love that. Don't doubt your value. Boom. And so how true is it? We get into this place. I think others recognize our value even before we do. And
100%.
I know I've been guilty of discounting my value and thinking, oh, well, anyone could do that. And they're like, no. And I had a good friend share with me recently. I helped her write a 30-second just 30-second message. She's a head, big vice president, major billion-dollar health company. And I remember her saying, I got to send a message out with other executives to the team, and I want to do a good job. But, she's a behind the scenes, not the one behind the mic. And so I rewrote it. I said, oh, it's a piece of cake here. And I gave it to her. And then I had to go and do an online course recording, of course, hours in the room doing that. And I was like, this is going to be so hard, so difficult. And she's like, stop. It took me 25 times to get that 30-second thing recorded. You go in there and on like first take, you have a couple of minor tweaks here. Don't talk to me. And we don't see our value. That's my point.
Yeah.
And I think that's really why this book came into being, is that the valuable leader it's an inside job. Leadership is an inside job first.
100%. And it's not a matter when you're recognizing your value, it's not a matter of uh, false humility is,
Mm,
I think, the mistake a lot of people make.
yeah.
Like true humility actually is coming from a place of servitude, like not servitude, but service mindedness, where
Yes.
you actually are there and the value that you bring exists to serve other people and to help them succeed, help yourself succeed. But I think a lot of us, when we actually have almost like a false humility, when we shrink, when we cause ourselves to shrink,
Hmm.
what we're actually doing is that's actually a very selfish and
Mm,
self-centered thing to do,
mm,
because we're kind of actually, in many ways, we want people to feel a little sorry for us. So
yeah.
build us up. I'm going to tell you that I'm not good, so you'll build me up. I'm
Yeah.
going to shrink to myself so you have low expectations of what I can bring to the table.
Wow.
And false humility, I think, is dangerous. True
Yeah.
humility is you need to have it. I genuinely believe in this day and age, especially to really
Right.
be able to make an impact. But false humility and ignoring the value and experience that you can bring to the table
Hmm.
doesn't serve you, and it
Right.
doesn't serve anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I love that. That's what a nugget you just gave us. How are you going to answer this next question? I just can't. But I love how you talk about paying it forward, that we have that responsibility and that
Yep.
we're actually doing ourselves and we're doing others a disservice when we shrink, to use
Mhm.
your word, when we shrink, when we just, and the phrase, you are the adult in the room. I mean, that goes back to, you have a responsibility, and it circles right into integrity, because you can't, integrity is being truth to yourself and to others, and consistently in truth. And if you know something and you don't, help someone by sharing that or giving that away with the right service heart, not with one of, telling people what to do, but in a service mindset, you're really doing you and them a disservice. Bam. Love that. You are the adult in the room. Okay. Let me shape up because those that listen, they know I like to have too much fun. All right, number three on my list to really folks listening, and some of them, probably most of them, know of you or have heard of you through your relationship in business with Story Brand and the team there. But I would love for you to share what would be one big takeaway that you would want to share with listeners that maybe haven't heard you before or haven't learned from you before, that you would say how they can uncover the valuable leader in them. What would be a big takeaway you would share?
So a lot of our work is all of our work in StoryBrand is in narrative frameworks. And so what we do is we teach people in marketing in particular how to make their customer the hero of the story
Right.
and their business the guide. So in your messaging, you are not the hero of the story, your customer is. So how do you create marketing that does that? Now, that's kind of that side, but there's another piece of it kind of because my PhD is in narrative marketing and study of narrative theory and all of this. What that is really based on are all of the things that we do are really based on narrative principles. And one narrative principle about story is that most stories have four main characters in them: hero, a
Mhm.
villain, a victim, and a guide. Those are kind of the four main. And guide, what we mean by that is like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda, the person who helps the hero win.
Mhm.
Now, there's a couple principles about each of these characters. The victim, when somebody is a victim and remains a victim in a story,
Mhm.
they actually only exist in the story to make the villain look bad and the hero look good. The story is not about them. Now, if they're a victim who then transforms, that's something different. But if they're
Right.
just a victim in the story, they make the villain look bad and the hero look good. They basically exist in the story to either get or give energy to the other characters.
Okay.
With the hero and the villain, an interesting thing about them is that typically they both experienced in the story some kind of backstory of pain, and it's
Mm.
usually similar.
Mm.
So they both lost a daughter. They both were, passed over by the company for a promotion. Something
Mhm.
they both their fathers treated them poorly. In fact, villains often have a scar to prove to you that they went through some kind of pain that hardened them.
Right.
Now, the villain works to revenge that pain. The hero works to redeem the pain.
Wow.
That's kind of how that they work in the story. And then the guide exists to help the hero win. The guide has actually already overcome the difficult situation, already overcome the trauma, and
Mhm.
they are now there to serve other people. Now, the reason that those four characters exist in a story is because they exist in each of us.
Mhm.
There are moments in my life that I can play all four in one day. I can play the victim. There are moments where I have been like that, I am a victim, and there are real victims in the world. And this is what I'm talking about here is different, but there are moments that I play the victim.
Sure.
The thing about that I always have to remind myself is good stories are never written about victims. They're really not. In
Right.
order to actually have a good story, you have to transform.
Right.
And when you begin to redeem what has happened to you, that's when you become a hero. Now, but if you choose to then be angry and
Mhm.
upset about the pain, you actually then try to hurt other people and you become the villain.
Mhm.
Ultimately, our goal should be in life to become the guide, the
Mhm.
person who serves the heroes, who
Mhm.
helps the hero win. They are the strongest character in the story. They are the most steady. And the story actually can't move forward without them. The hero is up and down. The hero is
Mhm.
actually like insecure and they're selfish and they get beat up through the whole movie. The
Right.
guy stays consistent and is the strong one because they've already won the day. They don't need to prove anything.
Right.
we want to be, I think, as leaders, the people who live more in the space of being heroes, redeeming the pain that existed for us so that we can help others not experience the same, and then ultimately guides to help people move forward. And there's even a lot of research around the idea of what kind of fulfillment you can achieve personally by helping other people or helping other people experience victory. If I go to a restaurant and I love that restaurant,
Right.
and I have an amazing amount of joy, I'm literally crying over the food. And then I go back to that same place to have the exact same experience, I will not experience, research tells us, the same amount of joy.
Right.
However, if I take you to that restaurant with me and we experience it together and I watch the joy that you experience, I can actually achieve even higher levels of fulfillment and joy because I invited you into that story to help you win.
Mm.
So I kind of going back to your original,
I
what was
know,
the
but
thing?
I love how you've laid the foundation, because knowing those, knowing those four main characters and the fact that they exist in all of us, we
Yeah.
play every role. And so I have a mess here, but boy, was I trying to stay up
Yeah,
with you.
I was talking fast because we can get chatty,
It's
but
okay. I got the
you know
recording.
the reality is we do all experience those things. And when
Right.
I have learned that when I live my life more in the guide space, when I
Yes.
actually work to help other people win, not only am I more fulfilled, but they are. And
Mm.
that's ultimately same thing when it comes to a business side of things. When we can teach companies how to stop being the hero of their story and their marketing and position their customers the hero, they
Yeah.
win. They communicate more clearly and customers are more likely to act.
Wow. So big takeaway there. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love that. Drop the mic. Wow. Oh, how cool is that? Thank you and thank you for, at least for me, maybe others are a little bit more aware of just the detail behind that narrative principle, but it really helps solidify it. And I think it's set the stage. So thank you so much. Of course, I don't want to ask this next question because I just want to keep talking to you, but I do want to respect your time and I want to respect the time of those listening in. So I'd love to give you the opportunity now, Dr. JJ, to share with our listeners how they could learn more about you, how they connect with you, follow you, or tap into any of your resources. This is your time. Thank you again so
Yeah.
much.
On all the socials, LinkedIn, everything, I'm Dr. JJ Peterson, so you can kind of find me there. And we work with, like I said, we work with companies, marketers, help them. And if you're interested in just talking to me about that, just email me at drjj@drjjpeterson.com.
Yeah.
And you can reach out and we can chat about that. If you're interested in maybe going to one of our live workshops in Nashville, or our online workshops, you can go to storybrand.com and you can learn more about that. But if you're interested in kind of private consulting and workshops, just email me and I can talk to you about maybe helping you clarify your message and becoming a guide to your customers.
Yeah. Okay, great. We will put that in the show notes. Yes, we'll make sure that folks, and trust me, if you do email those listening, if you do email this guy, he is going to answer your email. It's not going into the spam monster. He's going to answer that for you. So thank you again. I really want to extend a personal, heartfelt thank you for your time and for the wealth of knowledge you gave us. I feel like I've sat through, an intense class today, which has just been a lot of fun, very juicy material. Thank you again so much, Dr. JJ.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for watching another episode of Your Leadership Chat. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button here and tap that bell icon so that you never miss another episode. I hope too that you'll give us a thumbs up on the video for a like. And then if you feel led, please share the video with those who need to see it. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Your Leadership Chat. Bye for now.